When I was beginning to enter the workforce at a ripe young age of 15, there was something I noticed as I started my new job. I was working in a restaurant at the time and I was really excited to start this new job. But my first week, just my first week, I noticed that there was like an unspoken rule within the place that only the men worked in the kitchen and the women worked up front as servers and hostesses and like easy jobs like that. The owner of the restaurant was a crude man who always told us to wear tight-fitting clothes to bring in more customers and get better tips and things like that. He would always call us things like sweetheart and baby doll, and it just felt degrading. He'd be uncomfortably physical with us, but none of us felt comfortable saying anything because we knew that nothing was going to change. We weren't allowed to work in the kitchen. We weren't seen as capable. This was the man's job. The men ran the place. At my next job, thankfully, with my coworkers, there was more gender equality present. But the way that the male customers treated the women working at my store was unacceptable. One time, I was out in the parking lot cleaning up some trash that some kids had thrown on the ground when this man pulled up in his car behind me and was blasting music, and he rolled the window down, and I was bent over to pick something up, so you can assume what happened next. He began to catcall me and yell obscene things. He was asking how old I was and things like that. This was just one of many instances. Another instance was when a man came in one night and we had messed up his order, and he was understandably upset when he began to ask for the manager and ask where the manager was, and I politely responded and said, "I'm the manager, like, how can I help you?" And when I said this, he looked at me with sort of a disdain in his face, and he said, "But you're just a young girl." Many times at my job that I worked hard at, I wasn't shown respect just because of my gender. These instances were just the beginning of me noticing and experiencing this problem that is woven throughout our society and that has been prominent since the beginning of time. While we may have made steps, to make changes regarding this problem, it's still an attitude that exists within our culture. This problem that I've been describing to you is gender inequality. Society's made progress in this area for sure, but even in 2021, we still see this issue. My experiences aren't even as bad as some that women have encountered. Gender inequality is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the social process by which people are treated differently and disadvantageously under similar circumstances on the basis of gender. It is not only seen in job segregation, but in all areas of life. Unfortunately, women have less access to education than men. Research shows that in most countries, 1/4 of women between the ages of 15 and 25 won't even finish their primary education. Out of all the illiterate people in the world, it's been shown that 2/3 of this group are women. 2/3, that's more than half of this group are women. I'm extremely grateful to live in a country where this is not nearly as much of a problem as some other countries, but it still needs to be addressed. Another area that gender inequality is seen in is political representation. Many countries haven't even opened up to the idea of having a woman in position of authority, even though we're just as capable as men. There's definitely been progress in this area within our country, but we still have a long way to go. As of June 2019, there were 11 heads of state that were women. 11 out of 50. Only 21% of political positions are filled by women. This year, our nation has elected the first female vice president, Kamala Harris. This is a huge victory for equality, and while Kamala Harris probably wouldn't have been my first choice for vice president, I'm ecstatic to see a woman in office in such a high position of authority and representing our country. I am worried that she won't be shown as much of respect by some of her peers, especially the male ones, and won't be seen as a capable vice president. This trend has not only been seen in the past, but in the political scene, but just in men's attitude towards position of power that is held by women. Don't get me wrong, I don't consider myself like a crazy feminist that thinks we need to get rid of all men, no way. I just think that there are many men in our society that view women in a degrading way, either knowingly or unknowingly. Throughout history, we can see this, and it's still prominent today. Women were supposed to be the homemakers, and they're not supposed to be educated or have their own opinion. They were simply just supposed to take care of their husbands and have kids and things like that. But women are just as capable of having careers, and men are just as capable of being homemakers at that. While much change and growth has been seen within our society, we still have a long way to go. Scripture highlights that men and women have differences that need to be celebrated and embraced, not seen as better or worse. There are some things that only a man is meant to do, and some things that only a woman is meant to do. But unfortunately, things that don't belong in these categories have fallen into them. Feminism at its core is anyone who recognizes the equality and full humanity of men and women. We are all human beings and we're all equally sinners. None of us should be seen as better or worse because of our gender or even our skin color, economic status for that matter. Unfortunately, the term feminist now has a negative connotation, and many women are afraid to say that they're feminist because of this. But feminism, simply at its core, is embracing equality and everyone treating each other with respect. But more importantly, love. Our goal should be to embrace the differences that God gave us when He created gender, not look down on His creation.